Hello friends, we continue with our writing and we are going to revisit some of the topics we have already handled before in business writing. On a different note, we will do vocabulary for specific situations. We have done some vocabulary in one of the previous classes, but today we will look at some specific situations and what kinds of vocabulary could be or would be most appropriate for those specific situations. So, how different is business writing? Now, we know that business writing is not technical communication or it is not creative writing, it is not a friendly chatty kind of a writing also. The language here is always formal and one needs to be careful, particularly with tone and vocabulary. Always avoid street language, slang, vocabulary, symbols and abbreviations which you think are comprehensible only to you and among your friend group, among your friend circle. So, please avoid using colloquial usage, abbreviations, short forms, etc. There are some abbreviations and short forms of course, which are very acceptable in all situations including formal situations like FYI for your information, aka also known as ASAP or PFA, that is please find attached. These are standard formats. So, or ENC, that is enclosure. So, we do not have any quarrels with these kinds of abbreviations. However, if you are more interested, please look up certain kinds of acceptable and standard kinds of abbreviations that are used in business writing. Also be sensitive to the various formats to follow in your writing while writing emails and memos. You should know the structure, salutation, writing the date, the paragraphing, etc. Avoid interjections and smileys. Please do not do smileys, especially in formal situations. Often we find that we are only among a group of colleagues. What difference does it make? Well, fine, it does not, maybe if you know the person extremely well, but it may not always be the case, and that is mail may be shared for official purposes with other people also. So, avoid the practice of sending anything that makes you look like maybe someone who is professionally not that serious. So, avoid interjections and keep the writing as precise and formal as possible. Now, here is a practice exercise, exercise 1. Take a look at this. You have been repeatedly asking the head of the office annual day committee to look into the stage and venue arrangements for this purpose. Okay? There is only a week to go for the program and now the tentative venue might not be available. You need to write a note to remind us, a note of reminder to that person to take necessary action. The tip here is to assess the purpose of the note. What are you writing? What is the reason why you are writing this mail? And the tone you need to adapt. So, who are you addressing? The head of the office, who is the office annual, it is not head of the office, sorry, head of the office annual day committee. So, he is the person in charge. Remember, this is your answer. The purpose is to remind the head of the committee to book the venue and press him into immediate action. So, that should be the most important feature, the key feature. Letter needs to be stern, firm, but not rude or impolite, as you need to maintain good relations with the committee head and make sure that the function is not jeopardized. So, the larger good of the company always precedes individual or personal emotions. In business situations, that is important. Just because something infuriates you or something pleases you does not mean that you grant favors or get angry with the receiver. You have to be very professional in these situations. Always keep the greater good of the company before you. Now, this is second exercise. Look at it. Answer these questions about report writing. Why are various sections of the report in the order they are? We have been doing quite a lot of report writing. The question is, sections of the report are in a particular order. Is it because it looks nice? Each section flows into another. Every report is written this way. And which style of writing is used in reports? Formal or informal or semi-formal? Exercise, this is the next exercise. What is the purpose of including a conclusion section? Many a time in letters, or particularly in letters and emails and also reports or essays, people forget the importance of a concluding remark. Now, remember, conclusion is extremely important. It tells you that you are done and all your the various thought processes or various threads of thought processes that have been at work here are done and they are tied. They are at least there is an attempt for a closure. Remember, closure is important in an academic and formal communication. This is not again a creative writing where it can go on and on, or where you can leave the ending to the reader's imagination. Conclusion is important, that this is the end. So, what is the importance? What is the purpose? To give an introduction, to give an overview, or review the main ideas in the report A, B, C. Which do you think is the significance, or what is the significance of writing a good conclusion? And next question is, what is the purpose of including a recommendation or recommendings section? So, it gives answer to questions that the report states, suggests actions to be taken based on the report, none of the above. Which do you think is the right answer? If you do not know, if you still have confusion, please go back to the previous modules that we have been doing so far. Here is your response. 1. See, each section flows into other. So, that is the reason why we need a structured report, and report should be formal. And number 3, conclusion, it reviews the main ideas in the report, and recommendation number 4, B, suggests actions to be taken based on the report. So, that is the idea of. So, a report is always structured in a particular way. A report always has headings and subheadings, especially a business and technical report. It has certain kinds of a format and some features. Please stick to that. This is the next exercise. Choose the appropriate formal sentences for a report. 1. A, details of the data tables can be found in appendix 2. Is this better? Or B, I am delighted to include appendix 2 that contains details of data tables used. Which do you think is more appropriate for a formal report? Second, A, to conclude, the factory proposes considerable threat to the socio-economic life of the people around it. B, I would like to conclude that the people are distraught and the factory will affect their everyday life, eliciting a tear from many. Now, look at the choices here. In first sentence, the choice A is objective and formal. Details of the data can be found, and also note the usage of the passive sentence. So, passive structure, can be found. I am delighted. Now, this is not a letter. Okay, so tone is the problem here. I am delighted to include. Why should you be delighted to include anything? So, this is not, we are not looking at personal emotions. So, best answer is A. Here you are given, The answer is, the sentence is precise and short and tells you what you want to know in a language that is formal. And second, again A, this sentence keeps to a formal style in comparison to the other option B. We do not want to say that people are distraught, and if there is any change suggested, if there is any change, then there will be many a tear from the people. No, we do not want these things. Okay, what is enough? Let us go back to the previous one. To factory proposes considerable threat to the socio-economic life of the people around it. This is more than enough. People are distraught, factory will affect their everyday life, eliciting a tear from many. This is not what we are looking for. Exercise 4, consider the scenario presented below. Now, you have been working in the sales and marketing division of a famous pharmaceutical corporation, but for the past 4 years, despite exemplary performance on your part, your career has been stagnant and you haven't been given a promotion or pay raise that the situation demands. You want to quit this job and move to a company that acknowledges your potential. So, you have to write a letter. Consider a resignation letter written in this context to the HR department, identify its mistakes and rewrite the same. So, this is a resignation letter. Understand the exercise. Identify the mistakes. A warm hello dearest Mr. Batra. I would like to submit my resignation from my position as an executive at the sales and marketing department of the firm. The last 4 years at the company has been a great learning experience, but despite my persistent efforts, I have failed to impress the management. I would like to shift to a company that is willing to acknowledge the work of its employees and tap into their potential. I am regretful of leaving the company, but I would like to move to a space that offers me a good learning curve. Yours sincerely, Gautaman Kumar. The problems are, now what are the mistakes, that are the problems, what are the flaws. The letter lacks a formal tone that the situation demands. The format requires mentioning addresses of both the recipient and the sender. It does not mention the date from which the resignation will be effective. We do not start a warm hello dearest Mr. Batra. Why should the person be addressed as dearest? In formal situations, dear sir, madam or dear Mr. and or Mrs. or Miss, they are more than enough. You do not have to say warm or hi or cheerful and good day to you. All these things are just not, especially in a letter of resignation. So, we do not require such turn of phrases. And also you are resigning because you are unhappy with the company management, but you do not want to burn bridges. Let your writing reflect that tone which is not here. So, rewrite this letter and discuss it with your friends. Here is an answer. Dear sir, subject formal resignation letter from Jensen and Jensen Letter Limited. This is to inform you that I am resigning from the position of sales and marketing executive from Jensen and Jensen Limited. My last date of employment will be by 15th February 2018. I have worked for 6 years in the company and it has been a great learning experience, but for the past 4 years, despite my initiatives to take up new ideas and lead micro teams to fast track project delivery, I believe that it has not been acknowledged. My promotion has been blocked and my career is stagnant. While I am unhappy about leaving the company, I believe that I have pertinent reasons to do so. I would like to shift to an environment that will help me gain new experiences. If I can be of any assistance in speeding up the resignation process, do let me know. Yours sincerely, signature and then. So, please understand this is the appropriate tone. It is firm, it is still polite and it notes down the person's concerns very well. He has demonstrated or illustrated his problems very well. Okay, but at the same time he is not casting aspersions, he is not blaming people for nepotism or for any other reason. Okay? He is just saying his efforts have not been rewarded, and that is reason enough for someone to resign. Let us move on to do this exercise, exercise 5, and identify key points of the passage. Rice is the most important crop for Asians. Rice means not only food but also culture, livelihood, nature, art and education. For us in India, especially in the south, east and north eastern regions, rice is the staple food and decides the landscape and rural economy. It is our heritage, it is our identity. Unfortunately, in the last 10 to 15 years, all the possible threats we can imagine are making rice cultivation unsustainable. Unpredictable climatic changes, new trade policies, dismantling of support systems, loss of soil fertility, pest outbreak, loss in biodiversity, increasing cost of labor and other inputs, decreasing gross returns, etc., have created a situation where farmers find it difficult to sustain rice cultivation. Along with these, changing agriculture policies and campaigns on the advantages of other uses of rice fields have attracted farmers, and in many areas rice fields have given way to horticulture, urban development, development of landfills and industrial expansion. This is threatening the very existence of our culture and rural economy, relationships and ultimately ecology. Most importantly, this is threatening our food security and livelihood security. The source of this article is or passage is given below. Identify the key points of the passage, and here are your answers. Rice, and these are the key features. Rice is an important part of the Asian life and represents an entire way of living. Despite its central role in the life of people in the last decade, paddy cultivation has faced serious threats from factors like climate change and changes in policy structures. Farmers find it increasingly difficult to cultivate paddy, posing a threat to the food security and livelihood opportunity for the people in the continent. You may often be asked to identify key points of every paragraph. You may often be asked to write the summary of a passage. This is how you identify. We are not actually doing summary writing or précis writing in this course. Of course, so far we have not done, but this is one good way of identifying the key points, key features of any passage. So, now see, often we find we have been doing so much of letter writing, report writing. We have also understood several kinds of vocabulary, we have understood grammar, but there is one important part of business communication, and especially which is so prevalent in real life situations, that is business and malpractice. Now, here I would like you to think of certain kinds of vocabulary and terminologies which are related to business malpractices. Let us read the following extract on fake luxury goods. The source is given below. An investigation has found over the past 2 years, thousands of fake goods were seized from black markets across England. But is there any harm in nabbing a pair of Louboutin from a market or a Chanel handbag from a chap selling them on a foreign beach? To the average punter, it might sound a bit far-fetched that their cash goes straight to a drugs cartel or gun runners. We are not talking about alcohol, tobacco or medications. Buying such items clearly poses a health risk. The same can be said for toys which aren't up to safety standards and sunglasses which don't have the recommended UV protection. Nor are we talking about people who genuinely believe the goods they buy are the real thing. We are talking about those who are happy to get knockoff designer items for knockdown prices. Thus, people who are well aware there may be issues about quality and copyright, but don't actually mind. After all, are the people who buy fakes for a tenner really depriving the companies that sell goods for hundreds or even thousands of pounds? A woman who makes an impulse buy in market almost certainly wouldn't otherwise invest in the real deal, while the wealthy buyers of the genuine brand pride themselves on knowing the difference and having the official article. Now, what is this article all about? It is about luxury goods. There are two luxury brands mentioned here, Louboutin and Chanel. These handbags run into handbags or costumes or even shoes by these brands, they run into thousands of dollars and pounds. But here the article is talking about what is the problem if someone wants to buy a cheap or a replica of these brands. Now, a replica would come in for very cheap, of a very low price. Let us say the original cost is $2,000, but the replica can be sold with the same label and all, which is of course illegal, but these things are happening, rip off of the original designer brands. So, what will happen? These rip off brands would be sold for a couple of hundreds, if not thousands. Now, the writer raises an important, an interesting question. We are not talking about fake alcohol, tobacco or medication, these are life threatening things. He says, what is the problem if somebody even buys these fake luxury goods? What will happen? What is the worst that may happen? Buying such items clearly poses a health risk. The same can be said for toys which aren't up to safety standards or sunglasses. Now, we are talking about people who genuinely believe the goods they buy are the real thing. We are talking about those who are happy to get knockoff designer items for knockdown prices. Look at the way phrasal verb knock off and knock down is used. Knock off means really a killer kind of a stunning designer item. For knockdown, the price has been cut down drastically. So, the people who are well aware there may be issues about quality and copyright, but don't actually mind. People don't mind, it is just that for a very cheap price they are getting something that at least looks like the original, and for these people this is enough. A woman who makes an impulse buy, out of impulse you want to buy in a market almost certainly wouldn't otherwise invest in the real deal, while the wealthy buyers of the genuine brand pride themselves on knowing the difference and having the official article. He is talking also about the class of people you move around in. If you are the kind who moves around in the people who know the real from the fake, then good for you, but a person who just wants to do impulsive shopping, even the fake and cheap good would be good enough. Now, I want you to write, this is a take home exercise, write a short essay. See, in the previous passage the writer raises a question that what is the problem if, because it is a victimless crime, buying a fake luxury item is a victimless crime. Of course, he makes some kind of a, an argument can be made, or that all this money is going to run a cartel. Cartel is like illegal business, drug business, alcohol business, but you can never be sure if it is really going for those kinds of illicit activities. So, is financial wrongdoing a victimless crime? Yes or no? And financial wrongdoing of this nature, is it a victimless crime? Give reasons for your answer. So, develop an argument, write your own passage, think about these things. See, if you start thinking along the lines, and particularly if you are appearing for business certification, or you are in you want to appear for some kind of an exam where these things, where these kinds of questions may come up. So, please think about this, formulating an answer for this question, and think about the kinds of points or arguments, the kind of vocabulary, the kind of grammatical structure you may want to use. Now, let us practice some vocabulary related to business irregularities. Match the column. So, I have given words, I have given you the meanings, but they do not actually exactly match. So, let us start doing that. Counterfeit, a dishonest scheme. Embezzlement, the action of forging a copy or imitation of a document, signature, banknote or work of art. Scam, the process of hiding the illegal origin of money. Number 4, money laundering, made in exact imitation of something valuable and the intention to deceive or defraud. Number 5, forgery, theft or misappropriation of funds placed in one's trust or belonging to one's employer. Now, see, this is an exercise that you may find very interesting. You have to match the exact, they all, I know, because they deal with the business irregularities and malpractice, they all look alike, they all seem alike, but that is not the answer, but that is not really so. So, you have to look for the exact, the most specific kind of a response to these terms. Here are your answers. We talk about counterfeit notes. So, counterfeit, made in exact imitation of something valuable with the intention to deceive or defraud. Embezzlement, theft or misappropriation of funds placed in one's trust or belonging to one's employer. Scam is a dishonest scheme. Money laundering is the process of hiding the illegal origin of money. Forgery, the action of forging a copy or imitation of a document, signature, banknote or work of art. You might be interested to know that is not just signatures that are, that is the most common kind of forgery we are aware of, but even banknotes and works of art. In the art world, it is a very, it is a big headache for the international police to track or trace down those people who specialize in forging the works of art. It is a huge market out there. So, all these terms here are related to business malpractices. From here, let us go on to do some discussion on how to talk well, how we talk. Let us look at this following passage, which is a passage on that gives us important tips on presentation. I have not taken the entire article for you, but I have given you the source of the complete article. It is a very well written piece. You can look up the entire article on the website. Here I am just giving you an excerpt from there. Even if you establish your credibility, you also need to establish the credibility of what you say during your presentation. Instead of just presenting the material, accompany it with information that supports it and gives it credibility. You do not have to include it in your slides, but make sure it is in your speaking notes. For instance, you can tell a story, give statistics, reference research or even provide quotes from well respected figures that support your message. And do not be shy about addressing credibility. You can even say, you may be skeptical about this, but, or I know this is surprising, but. Okay, so, these are some please, the worst way of putting off an audience is to be extremely sure that my way or the highway, this is the way it is done. There is no room for skepticism or doubt. You should always say, yes, I know it sounds very odd, I know it is very surprising, but that is the way, that is the truth. So, always give credibility to your presentation. In business communication, there is nothing, you can use wrong English perhaps, but you can't take your credibility for granted. That is the most important thing that you have. In technical and business communication, perhaps you may make some errors in your language. However, you have to establish your credibility and credibility of presentation, and how you do that? With the help of your anecdotes, your statistics, your references, your research, and the latest readings that you have done, the latest material or data you have on your presentation. Here is some vocabulary for you. When do we need to speak in business context? Now, I know that you are aware of these situations, but when do we need to speak? What are the times when you actually need to speak in business situation? So, let us look at that. You have to go attend a business meeting, you have to speak, you may be required to speak at a business or press conference, you may have to give a briefing, you may have to speak at a product launch, you may have to attend or talk, give a lecture or a talk or symposium, or you have to speak, or you may have to speak at a seminar or workshop. All these are occasions when your language would be tested. So, when do we need to speak in business context? These are the times when you might need to, or you would be required to speak. Now, let us assume that you are not, you are an expert, but you really do not need to lecture or talk or give seminars or symposiums or workshops. But at business meetings, you will have to give some kind of a briefing. At product launches, you may be required to give a presentation. So, that is the point, that is a place or occasion where you will, or the occasion where you would be required to speak. Speaking is important. Making presentations in business situations is important. So, please bear that in mind. Let us identify the types of presentations given here. First one, the success of a product involves strategic planning, and most of the time that strategy involves a solid marketing campaign. When can a company use such kind of a line? Second one, clients need to know that the product they are investing in will maximize their efficiency, and you need to make sure you are building brand loyalty. Remember, brand loyalty are there are certain kinds of brands that are used over and again by us. They have been we are habituated to use certain kinds of soaps or toothpaste or even vehicles. We will not change. However much the advertisements pressurize to change our habits, but we remain loyal to a brand. So, when do you need to use such kinds of phrases or language, and when can you use the line? We will give each group, that is the third one, a series of tasks, and we want you to suggest solutions. So, first one, product launch, next is product brief, and then you have your workshop. We will give each group a series of tasks. So, that generally we talk like this at workshops when we are training people to do something. And before we wind up today's class, let us look at some useful expressions while making presentations. Let us take a look at this. That is a fair point. Always include the speakers, or sorry, the listeners' point of view. So, that is, if somebody makes a point, acknowledge that, say that is a fair point. I agree or I disagree, but you should be able to use it politely. That is confidential. Sometimes at a press conference you may be asked to reveal something, that is confidential, or no comments. That is not really my field or area. Sometimes you may be asked, you may feel cornered to respond to a situation, that is not really my field or area. This goes beyond the scope of my work. Okay, so, that is also a good way of presenting yourself. You do not know the answer, but everyone need not know everything. Sorry, I did not get the question, could you please repeat? Just do not say come again. This is something that people have started using of late a lot, come again. This is rather informal and impolite, but if you say sorry, I did not get the question, could you please repeat, that is much politer, much more polite. And on that note, I end the discussion or talk. Thank you for listening. So, on that note, or I end the discussion, or I end my talk. Thank you for listening. There is a concluding sentence. So, thank you very much, and I hope you are submitting your assignments regularly. Thank you.